News at 12. Some parenting tips on what to do when your child gets pushy. Should you give in or stand your ground? Find out what's best for both parties when we come back. At one time or another, parents are pushed by their children. Demands are made and negotiating skills come into play. It's not long before the parent can feel out of control and ready to give in to the child. Parenting expert Bill Corbett joins us with suggestions on how to regain that control and set limits children understand. Good afternoon, Bill. We're glad to have you here. When you're talking about setting limits for children, the ones we're going to talk about today are aimed at children what age?
Pretty much probably around 2 years to about into 11, 12, you can use those until they get to the teens.
And then sometimes maybe you can alter them a little bit so they can still kind of fit. The first one we want to talk about is honor your feelings. Are you talking about the child or the parent?
No, I'm talking about the parent. You know, some of us were raised in homes where, we weren't allowed to say what we feel or what we want to do. And when we're confined like that as children, we take that into our adulthood. We're afraid to make rules and to shake things up once in a while. So I'm always encouraging parents to honor their feelings. If they don't want something done or they don't like the way something's happening, to feel confident enough to speak up and let them know that I'm the parent.
Okay, and then number two, you have to be clear about it, obviously.
Absolutely clear. Children need boundaries for a couple of reasons. That's how they learn. They learn to respect others' boundaries when the parents put these boundaries in place. They also begin to learn from that model to have boundaries of their own for other children or adults, especially adults when mom and dad aren't around. It's really important that our children understand and learn what boundaries are for so that when they're approached by an adult who's not familiar with them, they're comfortable with setting their own boundaries, like saying, no, I won't get in that car with you, and no, I won't go with you.
It's not like setting boundaries like, no, don't do that, and they're going, well, I will if I want to.
Yeah, no, that's...
And then it goes, why? And because I said, that kind of thing. You get into that kind of thing.
You got to set them completely clear. Speak less. In fact, a little talk, the better. Be clear about your boundaries and help your child understand why you're doing that.
Use an I message.
Sometimes when we want to confront a person, whether it's a conflict or setting a boundary, we start with, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, and right away what it does is shields go up. People get defensive when we're approached. But the best thing to do with your child is start with an I message. I don't like it when the toys are left all over the floor. Or, I'm feeling stressed right now and that loud music isn't doing me any good. So you want to start first in your communication with how is this affecting you.
Okay, and then the last one is stick to your guns.
One of the things that children learn is they try to push your limits. They try to push the boundaries, and when a parent gives in, even though they've made a rule or a boundary, and they say, well, okay. And why do they do that? Because they love their children so much. We hate seeing something done to them unfairly, even when it's done by ourselves, so we kind of take that boundary down because we want them to have a good time. We want to love them. But the problem with that is the child learns and says, oh, all I have to do is rant and rave loud enough and mom and dad will take the boundary down and I get my way. Well, let me do it again. And children don't do that because they don't love us. They do it because it's fun. They do it because it's a challenge, and that's how they learn, is by testing us and experimenting.
And they will try you. There is no doubt about it.
That's right.
When we're talking about these things, if parents know these four things, then we're still going to be faced with, I don't want to, or later, or why, or because you said that's not good enough, or something like that, or I don't like you anymore. I mean, they'll say terrible things sometimes.
Oh, they sure do. They say, though, and when they get to the point of saying things like, you're a mean mom, or you're a terrible mom, or when they throw something like, dad's better than you, or you don't spend any time with me, that's their last attempt.
Or so-and-so's mother I wish I had so-and-so's. That's a killer.
Oh,
that will really
that's
get
their
you.
last chance to pull you into the struggle and try to defeat you. And you've got to stand firm and be silent and loving.
And when you say speak less, what do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes we try to justify everything for kids, and they say, well, I want that toy. And we say, no, honey, you can't have that toy because your birthday's coming up. But I want the toy. And we keep coming up with all these excuses. They don't care what the excuse is. Their job is to make you talk. And we find that when we talk too much, we get to the boiling point and we stress out. And we either snap, we yell, we hit, or we give in and give them the item. The best thing is to learn how to remain silent and don't say anything more after you laid the boundary down.
So you say the no, and then you move on.
And you move on.
And if they say, what do? Say, just don't answer?
Don't answer them.
Okay.
They already know the answer.
They
It's
know
their
the
job
answer.
to make you crack.
Okay, well, if you'd like to know more about what Bill has to say in setting limits for your children, give him a call at 223-5988. Thanks so much, Bill, for being here.
Thank you.
Coming up on Channel 4 News at 12, Janet Reno may try to run the president's brother out of office.